Hi, this is Sarah Butcher with the Side Comment. Today, psychologists Natalie Kerr and Jaime Kurtz, authors of Our New Social Life, Science-Backed Strategies for Creating Meaningful Connection, talk about the latest research on loneliness, from its evolutionary origins to exercises we can all do to alleviate it, even when we're all by ourselves.
Hi, I'm Natalie Kerr. I'm a social psychologist and a professor in the Department of Psychology at James Madison University, where I study loneliness and social connection.
Hi, I'm Jaime Kurtz. I am also a professor of psychology at James Madison University. I too am a social psychologist, and I study happiness and savoring.
And we're the co-authors of a new book called Our New Social Life, Science-Backed Strategies for Creating Meaningful Connection. In this episode, we'd like to share 5 key facts about loneliness.
Fact number 1, almost a quarter of the world feels lonely. You've likely heard about the loneliness epidemic, but did you know it affects nearly a quarter of people worldwide? A recent survey of 142 countries found that 24% of people report feeling very or fairly lonely. That translates into more than 1 billion people. In the US, nearly 20% of adults experience loneliness on a daily basis. It shouldn't be this way. As humans, we have a fundamental need for social connection. In fact, meaningful relationships are just as vital to our well-being as sleep, exercise, and proper nutrition. Yet loneliness has become a defining feature of modern life, driven in part by shifting social norms. We're spending less time with friends and family and more time on our devices. More of us are living and working alone, and our social circles are shrinking. These and other changes are reshaping social life and making it increasingly difficult to meet our fundamental need for connection.
Fact number 2, loneliness is both friend and foe. Nature has equipped us with a variety of biological warning systems to ensure our survival. Pain signals that something is wrong with our body and motivates us to address the issue. Hunger indicates low energy levels, prompting us to seek nourishment. Similarly, loneliness signals a deficiency in our social connections, driving us to strengthen existing relationships or make new ones. In the short term, loneliness serves a beneficial purpose. It reminds us not to neglect something essential to our survival. When we move to a new town, for example, loneliness can push us to strike up conversations with neighbors and colleagues, attend social gatherings, and stay connected to old friends. In this way, loneliness can be good for us. But the story changes when loneliness becomes chronic. When the warning system blares for weeks, months, or even years, it takes a serious toll on our health. It increases the risk of depression, anxiety, addiction, dementia, heart attack, stroke, type 2 diabetes, and more. Over time, it raises the risk of early mortality as much as obesity, excessive alcohol consumption, and smoking. With so many people struggling with chronic loneliness, it's clear this is a major public health issue. The challenge is that overcoming chronic loneliness is not always as simple as reaching out to others. That's because chronic loneliness changes the brain in ways that deepen isolation, making it even harder to find the connection you crave.
That's right. Fact number 3, chronic loneliness distorts our thinking of the social world. Loneliness presents a paradox. While it increases our motivation to connect with others, it also triggers a conflicting desire to withdraw in self-defense. This explains why some lonely individuals isolate themselves even when they deeply crave connection. These conflicting motivations make sense in the context of our ancestral past. For most of human history, being alone was dangerous. Without the protection of a tribe, we were far more likely to be killed by a rival tribe or be eaten by a giant hyena. So when we wandered too far from the tribe, loneliness kicked in, pushing us to return to our tribe while also making us hypervigilant to potential dangers along the way. This self-protective mechanism was useful for our ancestors, but in today's world, it often works against us. When we find ourselves alone, we're unlikely to face mortal combat, but our brains remain wired to search for threats. This hypervigilance distorts our perception of the modern social world. We start to expect social threats, often in the form of rejection, and when we expect rejection, we tend to see it everywhere. When a friend doesn't return a text, we assume that they don't really like us. When our boss overlooks an accomplishment, we feel underappreciated. These negative expectations can create a self-fulfilling prophecy. When we approach others with caution, or even coldness, they're less likely to respond warmly, and the cycle of isolation and loneliness continues.
This brings us to fact number 4. One of the most effective ways to combat loneliness is by correcting our cognitive distortions. As we've discussed, the antidote to chronic loneliness is not as simple as reaching out to others. It starts with looking inward, specifically addressing the cognitive distortions created by a sense of threat. As pioneering researcher John Cacioppo put it, the secret to gaining access to social connection and social contentment is being less distracted by one's psychological business, especially the distortions based on feelings of threat. When any of us feels connected, the absence of social pain and the sense of threat allows us to be truly there, in sync with others. This lack of negative arousal leaves us free to be more genuinely available for and engaged by whatever real connection might develop. We explore ways of dealing with one's psychological business in our new book. For now, we'll say this: shifting to a more positive outlook on the social world can make a significant difference. When we expect good things, we increase the odds of them happening.
And fact number 5, intentional solitary practices can help too. Many people equate loneliness with solitude or social isolation, but they are distinct concepts. Solitude is simply being alone, while loneliness is the feeling of being alone, regardless of how many people are around. You can be at a party, in a bustling co-working space, or even in a romantic relationship and still feel lonely. On the other hand, you can spend days alone and feel perfectly content. Surprisingly, certain solitary practices can actually reduce loneliness and enhance our subjective sense of social connectedness. One powerful example is mindfulness meditation. Mindfulness involves paying attention to the thoughts, feelings, and sensations you're experiencing in the present moment and welcoming these experiences with an attitude of acceptance. When loneliness arises, mindfulness means simply noticing the thoughts and emotions that come with it, without judgment and without trying to change them. You might also tune in to the physical sensations of loneliness. Does it manifest as a tightness in your chest, a constriction in your throat? Rather than resisting these feelings, allow yourself to fully experience them. When practiced daily, mindfulness has been shown to reduce feelings of loneliness in as little as 2 weeks. Researchers believe it works by lowering our perceptions of social threat, making us more open to authentic connection. So if you're struggling with loneliness, mindfulness might be worth a try. In sum, those are our 5 facts about loneliness, along with some research-backed tips for how to combat it. Thanks for listening.